There's been a lot of change in the offseason. I think we're up to like 12 players that we've changed from either in and out, certainly in, and then a certain amount have gone out. And then I think the bigger one, which we're starting now to kind of announce, is we've made 15 staff member changes. So it's been a pretty busy offseason for us. But I also think, I took the first year. Asher Mendelson and myself took the first year really trying to evaluate where the club was at, try to find people that were determined to try to turn this thing around and make this a positive experience for everyone, including the fans. So I think the changes were necessary. It's not a pleasant off-season in some states, or some people would say, but I always think something was necessary.
Are we still going to expect some new signings from now to the kickoff of the?
So we'll probably still have another couple to go. We're still working on it. Actually, just came off a plane yesterday from Europe, trying to see if we can get a deal over the line. So we're still working at it. We have till I believe it's April 24th, but our target is to try to bring in one or two more players. Probably not. It'll be difficult to get them in before the first couple of games, but we have a week between our first home opener against Onstad, so that would be the goal.
Is there any specific line that you want to foster?
In terms of the team this season?
Yeah. Like that.
Well, listen, I think for us every year, I'm here to win. I mean, that's what I've done my entire career. Is I want to win games and I want to be competitive, and we want to. One of the things that we've stated is we want to be able to compete for championships. But to be able to do that, you've got to make the playoffs. Last year we weren't anywhere close. It wasn't good enough. It's not where we need to be if we want to win. Try to fight for trophies. So every year, our stated first goal is to make sure that we qualify for the playoffs and see where that goes. We have a lot of work to do. I think last year I was. I don't want to say naive, because I don't think naive is the right word, but I think I expected probably a little bit more out of the group than what we got. And unfortunately, for us, we finished where we did. So we've got a lot of work to do, and I think we've made some good steps this offseason, but we've still got a long way to go.
Can you describe how was the preseason in Mexico and why you choose to be there?
Yeah, it's the irony is it's fast. It's easier to fly down to Mexico City than it is to Denver, Colorado. So for us, it makes a lot of sense for us to get down there. We get different competition than we have in MLS. It was interesting. We had a trialist in, and who's been in the league for 8 years, and it was after the first game when we played Club America, and we got it handed to us in that game. But it was a good experience for me. He turned around and said, "I've never played a Mexican team before." So if we're a team that wants to have aspirations of doing big things, we need to get that experience for those guys. But for us, the number one thing was to get at altitude, where it's very difficult for the guys, make them grind through it, bring the group together, and there's no better place than Mexico.
This year you're facing also a Leagues Cup. Tell me about that and how much excitement is for that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just thinking as you said that, I go, what is it? It's Santos, right? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so it's not something that's really in the front of our minds. I think once we get to that competition, we'll focus on that. Our focus right now is Cincinnati. The first game, we want to start off on a high, and certainly at least get the season moving in the right direction.
This trip to Mexico, when you see some of the love that Hector Herrera got around Mexico City, does it put a different perspective maybe for the players, for his teammates, for the staff, the club, the kind of star that this team has?
Yeah, I think for the players, they knew, most of the guys that follow the Mexican national team realize what he is and what a leader he is, and he's the captain of the national team. And the one thing that I think I said this when I first went after him is, one of the things I loved about him is he's the first guy when they're playing the U.S. is that he's the first guy that's there when a guy's on the ground helping his teammate up, but he's also the first guy in there to kind of kick the American guys when he's down. And, we're hoping he can do that for our group. We know he's a great leader, and we know he's had a fantastic career, but we want to make sure that he does some good things here as well.
You mentioned before the intention to play him higher up the field. What are you sort of expecting as far as his output? Not numbers specifically, but just maybe the type of command that you want him to have.
Yeah, I think for us the big one is he needs to be the connector for us. He needs to be the guy that can link the back, 3 or 4, depending how we build up. If we drop a 6 in, and then up to our attack. So he's not necessarily going to be the guy that gets in the box. I think what we've seen in the preseason is Coco Carrasquilla has had a great preseason, and the fact that he's been allowed to go for it and get in the box has really helped. So I think you'll see a lot from him from an offensive standpoint, but what you'll see Hector doing is controlling the tempo for our group.
You mentioned some of the changes in the staff before. We've seen some more over the last couple of weeks. Some change in the academy. What can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think we had an evaluation period for the last year to see where our club was at, and we want to make sure the priority here is on winning. And I think we brought in a lot of staff members that have a history of doing that and have done that where they've been. We still have some holes to fill, and I think a lot of the staff people that we brought in are going to be able to fill those holes.
Maybe a little bit of curiosity, not so much questioning, but maybe especially with the Columbus connection, was there a thought of maybe bringing a guy like Eric Quill back with what he had done here in the area? In the
with the
academy?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather not get with the academy. We haven't gotten that. We're looking at we have one position that's open, and we're looking to hire that. So I don't know where they're at with that one.
And what can you elaborate on Tony and what his role will be?
Yeah, Tony Vigil is a guy who's been with the club not for a terribly long time, but what he's been known as a great recruiter. He does a great job of that. He's very organized. I think we felt we needed somebody kind of in a leadership role that could organize the group and then put a focus on how do we produce players from the academy into the first team. Elevating Nick Koba into that role where he's going to be responsible for that pathway, working very closely with Tony, Kenny, Roy Lassiter, our academy coaches, and then with Ben Olsen, I think will make a major difference for us.
And ask Ted this, but maybe you can do a little bit more in the weeds into this on the purpose of the academy. How much do you want it to be? Is it there to make money from youth players? Is it there to kind of generate money? Is it more player development? What can you tell us about the intention?
Yeah, I mean, all of those would kind of fit under the player development mold, right? But for us, the biggest one is we need to start producing players for the first team. You can't sell a player that does a fantastic job in the U17 MLS Next Pro, MLS Next League. What you need to do is get them. How do they get from there, and then become an influence here on the field here at Shell Energy Stadium? So, if we can do that, then that's when we'll start being able to turn a profit on that group, or at least turn it over like an FC Dallas or a Philadelphia Union.
And I guess maybe to get a little bit elaborate better.
Yeah.
In the past, maybe the priority was to maybe generate money off the fees instead of the priority being so much on player development. It seems like now it's kind of steering the other way.
Yeah, we want players that can compete for our first team, take valuable minutes, and that can help us win with the first team. I mean, that's the sole purpose of the academy, from our opinion. If they generate revenue, and if they're doing that for the first team, they will generate revenue. If you have 17, 18, 19-year-olds that are playing for the first team and helping us win games, there's a lot of eyes on MLS now. I think this will quickly turn into a sellers league.
What does it mean to you to have the support of Ted Siegel and him willing to make the investments that are necessary?
Well, you guys got to talk to him for 20 minutes, so it was great. So it's amazing. I talk around the league with a lot of CSOs in our league, and there's all sorts of different relationships with ownership groups. So I think one of the biggest advantages I have is that Ted's always available. So we have a good relationship. I keep him informed of what's going on. He asks great questions for me, which is good for. Although I may be a little bit older, I'm still a young GM, so he asks a lot of good questions and kind of to your point, Victor, asks a little bit about what's going on and what are the purposes in our thoughts and our plans. So very fortunate to have him as an owner. Great. Thank you.
Wrap up now?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
go for it.
About
We'll catch up with Alex Singer here as well.